Hi, welcome to another They Say It's Your Birthday, in which we shin down the digital drainpipe of those Patreon supporters of ours who are celebrating birthdays. And we're delighted this time to be teleported all the way to East London to celebrate the birthday of Alan Wallis. Alan, hello. How you doing?
Hi, how are you, David? Mark?
Welcome. Lovely to see you. Fantastic.
When's the birthday, Alan?
Saturday.
Okay. Are you all excited? Are you beside yourself?
We were going to go away, but that's all been called off, obviously. So no. And I mean, I thought I was reaching pensionable age this year, but I'm not. I've got to wait another year.
Oh, that's a very subtle way of saying how old you are without actually spelling it out.
Exactly, Mark.
We all know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So
Alan, you're in, is it Manor Park, you're saying?
Yeah.
This is Small Faces territory.
That's right. J60s, where Stevie Marriott met Ronnie Lane, is literally at the top of my street.
I hope there's a plaque on the wall.
No, I'm trying to get one.
Are you? Good.
And having real trouble persuading the council to do it. Because the idea of just having a plaque in Carnaby Street over Don Arden's office celebrating the Small Faces.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Seems an atrocious thing.
Well,
Yeah.
do you know the funny thing about that plaque? That plaque is actually on the site of what was the old Smash Hits office.
Really?
Mark and I
52
worked
to
back
55 Carnaby Street.
55. We never knew there was any Don
And
Arden
if
connection.
we'd known that when we were sitting there, interviewing, Nick Hayward from Haircut 100, that literally out of that very window, dangled by their ankles, would have been, the Kenny Jones or somebody.
You see, absolutely. Yeah, Alan, you know a certain amount of music business law, and you're a big fan of the Small Faces. What's the truth on the nearest thing to the truth of that story about Don Arden dangling somebody out of his window by the ankle?
No idea. I mean, everyone, but it's come from different sources, right? So it makes you think if there's more than one source, but it could be just one of those apocryphal stories. I don't know. I like to think it was true. But,
wasn't the story
dangling?
Somebody worked for Robert Stigwood, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. Or was it Peter Grant who was doing the dangling?
Peter Grant worked for Stigwood, didn't he? I think that's right.
He worked for Arden as well, didn't he?
He worked for Arden, but that's where he learnt his kind of dubious trade, I think, didn't he? Yeah.
But I think by the kind of late 60s, it was a bigger deal than Don Arden, really.
Yeah,
because Led Zeppelin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All those guys.
A pop fact I discovered about Small Faces recently is that Steve, you obviously will know this, but Steve Marriott was at school and a school friend of Tony Robinson, Baldrick from Blackadder.
Oh, didn't know.
I never knew that. I know. Yeah, I discovered that recently.
Yeah. He was born. He lived in Strone Road, where the Dockers Delight. What was her name? Rene,
the Dockers Delight. And a ship's in every night.
That's right.
That's great.
God. Years later, I sort of played in a band, and we used to sometimes do Ronnie Lane whole sets, but we always threw Rene into the set because it used to go down a storm. You play.
So you can do a whole set of Ronnie Lane tunes. I suppose you can.
Easily. And then when we went to see Slim Chance, our bass player, we were all there. It was at the Borderline. And our bass player sort of shouted out after 3 numbers, "Hey, it's a Shed Edge tribute band," because obviously it was a set that we did, and it was almost exactly the same. It's really weird.
So you've kept your hand in as a musician despite earning your living in accountancy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, although that's gone now, but with a big long gap from between school and sort of the kids all growing up. There was a long gap, but it was the same people I was playing with back at school that we started doing it all for. And in fact, we did it. We made you can't see that.
Oh, go on.
Go on. Hold it up. Yeah.
Back in the shed with the shed head.
So that goes back. So when we first started, this is at school. Right, we were ADK and the Shed Men.
Oh, right.
That's brilliant. So this is playing all your Ronnie Lane stuff.
No, this was original. We did this for Comic Relief, my firm were the honorary auditors or accountants for Comic Relief.
Yeah.
So we put some of these up on an auction site to sell, and sold a lot. In fact, one person paid £100 for one.
Wow.
So we thought we'd better give them a deluxe edition. So we went away and made this with books, lyrics, and everything, because he paid £100. So we did that, and then after that, they thought because we did that, we must be a working band and we must play live. And we hadn't played live for, in fact, we didn't have a drummer. So then we did Ernst & Young Fame Academy, which we won. And the judging panel was Roland Rivron and Miranda Hart. And we did a Ronnie Lane song. We did How Come, and then we just did 2 songs, and then we left it and we finished the whole thing. I did Oasis, Rock and Roll Star.
Right.
So that was it. That was it. And
that would have been Dave's favourite. Sorry, long-running gag about Oasis. Yeah.
So have you've been sequestered, as have most of us, in the last sort of 8 months or whatever it is. Have you been going through your souvenirs and the stuff in your attic and thinking,
when
I ended up with one of these, and now here's your opportunity to justify having retained all this stuff over the years by showing it to the only people in the world who might conceivably be interested.
Okay.
And be envious, which is part of the point. Yeah.
So if you go back, I mean, we didn't have a record player in our house till 1968. Before that, everything we heard was on the radio. So, and sort of my mum was the sort of big radio person. And so I can just remember growing up, apart from the normal sort of novelty songs, you know, the Charlie Drakes and the Singing Postman and all that stuff.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
We loved them.
Then there was things like, I can remember Little Children and Night of a Thousand Eyes and
fabulous record. Johnny Tillotson, Bobby V,
Bobby V. And then sort of then when pop started, by the mid 60s, you know, you were hearing the Beatles and everything. So I that was sort of the upbringing. We didn't get a record player to 68. And what my mum had was sort of soundtracks, but not the original soundtracks. It was things like the Music for Pleasure.
Yes.
Versions of them. And
was it on the Embassy label? Woolworth's Embassy label.
So these are the cover versions, right?
Yeah, cheap, slightly cheap.
Yeah. With the girl in a bikini on the cover.
That's different.
There's half a sixpence, right? We had that. I can remember
yes.
Des O'Connor was taking the lead. So on that one, there was sound
in half a sixpence.
Half a sixpence. And then mum always thought EPs were better value than albums, than singles. Because you got 4 tracks, right? So I can remember things like Peter, Paul and Mary, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra EPs knocking around the house. But the first record I bought with my own money.
My own money.
See that?
All right. It's on the Motown label. Yeah. It's I Want You Back, Jackson 5. Well, that's not a bad start.
That's a good start. That's very impressive.
So,
I think I was actually working it through. I think, and it's only me doing this that I suddenly thinking about it. I think I went and bought. There was another single I got on the same day. I haven't got it here. Was It's Getting Better by Mama Cass. I think I bought the 2.
Great record. Lovely record, Getting Better.
Great B-side.
Fantastic record.
Great B-side, written by a sister.
I tell you, while we're talking about I Want You Back, if you haven't already heard it, if you haven't already sorted it out, it's on YouTube. The bass on I Want You Back is played by Wilton Felder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not James Jameson. Yeah.
Wilton Felder is a member of the Crusaders who wasn't really a bass player. He was a trombone player, I think I'm right in saying. I think I'm right in this.
Yeah.
But somehow he played the bass part on I Want You Back. And you can hear the isolated bass part on YouTube, which is mind-boggling.
I've got to hear that. That sounds good.
You just think, how did a human being do this? And you also think, well, he wrote the song. You know, if he's the guy who played that, what was left for anybody else to do? You know what I mean?
I have to say, this is so quintessentially Word in Your Attic, isn't it? Here's three blokes talking about the isolated bass part on the B side of a single.
It's on the
it was the A side of a single by Mama Cass, but all the same, that's still pretty fantastic.
So Jackson 5's I Want You Back.
Oh, yeah.
Which
it wasn't James Jamerson. Everyone thought it was James Jamerson.
No, it's Wilton Felder.
Oh,
and he was one of those guys who could just turn his hand to a bunch of instruments, but I'll do a bass if you want it, you know.
So the thing I came in at school. I can remember there were the prog rock kids and everything like that, and I wasn't really in that camp. I was more. I had pop sensibilities, if you like. I like singles I like pop singles, you know. And the thing about Motown was, you can name any number, just name one off the top of your head, had a great start. The first 30 seconds of that song are just, you're hooked. You know, there's so many of them. And I Want You Back was one of them. You know, that's what's so great about the Motown guy.
It's fantastic. Fantastic.
So
can you remember the first LP you bought?
The first LP I was given, I didn't buy it with my own money, but the first one was that one.
Oh, okay, Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah,
we've had that on this show before.
I'm sure.
A very popular contender, and we're very much enjoying your Beatles Russian dolls behind you, by the way.
Yeah, in the right order. Inside Ringo, it's not out. There's a little beetle inside the.
Can you open one and show us? I think we're on a demonstration.
They squeak terribly, but yeah. So it's John.
You've opened John. Squeak.
There's John.
Right.
There's the Beatles on the side.
Oh, very good.
And then Paul is smaller.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you've got George, who looks nothing like George.
No,
it's just not remotely.
It looks like an Alan Aldrich remix. That does.
And then Ringo, poor little Ringo.
With the Beatle inside him.
He was, to be fair, the smallest one, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then inside there's a Beatle.
That's brilliant. Really good.
Alan, how many Beatles have you met?
I've only met one Beatle. I've worked for three.
Right, you worked for three. I think you should tell people in what capacity you've worked for three.
I was so when it's a very sad one. When George died, I valued the copyrights for his estate when he died. Did a little job for Ringo. Can't remember what it was now.
Painting and decorating.
Wallpapering.
Our text is fence.
Yeah. Paul, obviously, first job I ever did was for Linda, but then the big job I did for Paul was when he got divorced. I valued the estate. I valued all his business assets.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was that's been your professional specialism. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was up until I retired from doing that 3 years ago to start the publishing company.
So valuing catalogues.
Yeah.
Give us an example of some of the other catalogues you were involved with.
It wasn't just music catalogues, by the way. I'll come back to that, but it was sort of media IP.
Right. Yeah.
Catalogues was my specialty. I've acted for people like Mike Oldfield. I've done work for. I acted for the Michael Jackson estate, valuing Sony ATV when he died. It's things like that.
Right.
And then other IP I actually valued because I did some work for a little company called EMAP.
Right.
I valued smash hits.
Oh, right.
But by then the magazine had stopped production, but they still owned the name.
Right.
I want to know how much it was. Come on, you can tell us. No one's listening.
I can't do it, but I tell you what, the most valuable title they had, and it was on the B2B side, was Rubber and some
Plastics and Rubber Weekly always used to be a really
the kind of running gag in all the meetings about, well, you're doing well, but you're not doing as well as Plastics and Rubber Weekly. Let's pay your wages, son, and don't you forget it.
There are a number of people thought that was a consumer title for a certain type of...
Yeah.
They did.
So with music catalogs, though, you must have gone through a time when they've, when the valuations have gone from this much to like,
now I'm in the business of trying to buy catalogs, right? Like, this is what I do for a living, and it's getting, it's getting very, very competitive. But there's always been people out there prepared to pay. It's a bit like buying football clubs. I sometimes feel there's a trophy value to some things,
What to say that you own the Buddy Holly catalogue or the Elton John or whatever, it gets you in the financial pages, doesn't it? That kind of thing. Whereas if it's somebody obscure, it wouldn't do as much.
But it's very steady income, on older catalogues. The income's pretty steady, and it's
all based on. But we're not expecting you to spill any secrets here. But it's all based on the idea that even though people don't sell records anymore, a recorded music catalogue, thanks to advertising, TV sync rights, God knows what, is worth more than ever because there's more outlets for all that stuff. Is that fair?
Here's an example from our
ringtones.
Ringtones was a massive. I can remember seeing at EMI when they were sort of saying how much money they were making from ringtones. It was incredible for a while. And I was saying, who wrote Congratulations, guys? What was the...
Oh, God, can't even remember. Go on. Don't know.
Well, I was sitting at a lunch, and one of the writers was there, and he had Congratulations on the ringtone, on his phone. And he thought that every time his phone rang, he earned a royalty. He didn't realise he just got a license fee for it, a one-off payment. So, so every time it went, he thought, cha-ching, Talking about licenses, this was one of ours. Our first year in business, we got the John Lewis advert last year. So
yes, of course.
Good.
So yes, there we are with.
Yeah, what was that tune?
Yeah, REO Speedwagon.
REO Speedwagon was. I mean, that's just a classic case of how strange and circuitous are the ways of the music business, isn't it? That a John Lewis Christmas ad in the year 2019 ends up being REO Speedwagon from when? Are we talking the 80s or the 70s?
I know, 80s, early 80s. But it was a cover. It was recorded by the guy from Bastille. But,
right.
But yeah, but that's to your point about, there's still money.
Huge money in it. The Tesco's ad is Britney Spears, isn't it? I mean, they're everywhere. Yeah. Huge money.
But presumably the ways of exploiting it is like your ringtone example. There was a time when ringtones made quite a lot of money, but it won't have lasted very long.
No.
But you'll probably be making a lot of money in 5 years' time out of something that we can't even envisage at the moment because it's not.
No, I mean,
it hasn't been invented or God knows what.
Yeah.
It's absolutely extraordinary. It fascinates me the way that this stuff just has a life of its own. Just goes on forever. So what else have you got to show us there, Alan?
I was trying to find some tickets. I mean, thinking about this, I went hunting for some tickets. I thought, what was the first gig I ever went to? And did I have the ticket? And very disappointingly, I can't find it. And I did keep tickets. I had a big box of them. The first gig I ever went to, big gig, not in a pub, was the Moody Blues. Hammersmith Odeon. Now, I'm coming from, I like Tamla Motown, and, I could even listen to Sugar by the Archies and not get upset.
Fair enough.
But I went and saw the Moody Blues at Hammersmith Odeon. But the thing I remember most is the support band was Hotlegs and Friends.
Hotlegs, 10cc.
It was because Graham, one of the friends,
Neanderthal man.
And then so it was Hotlegs, and then Graham Goldman was one of the friends, plus the world's accordion champion.
Oh, right.
That was the support band. And then it's really weird. So that was in 71 probably.
Right.
2 weeks later, I'm at the Pavilion with and Danny Baker was in the audience because I've heard him talk about this, to see Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
He's never recovered from that night.
What I was doing at an Emerson, Lake and Palmer show, I don't know, but I went. And then the third gig I went to, it was in early 72. My dad had a mate who had a debenture at a box at the Albert Hall, and he used it for classical concerts. And so I used to go for pop gigs. And the first one I ever saw there, Captain Beefheart and his magic.
Oh, wonderful. What year are you talking about?
72.
Can you remember what the lineup was then?
It was
this is the classic line.
It was Rolo,
Zulu,
yeah, it was the Roy Estrada.
Is this a show that's began? I know this because my flatmate went into it. That the bass player came out first, playing a bass solo while smoking a long cheroot. I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah, I can't, David. I can't remember.
It was a real show. The way he told me about it was absolutely extraordinary.
Belly dancer and a ballerina, and Captain Beefheart apologised for the quality of the PA.
Hedging his bets as ever.
And the drummer did a solo on an egg whisk.
Yes! Those were the days of entertainment. Now, we're going to have to reel back through your little list there, because I've just discovered something yesterday, only yesterday, because with pop trivia, it keeps on, gift that keeps on giving. Do you know how the Moody Blues got their name?
No.
Well, I discovered yesterday because they hoped to get a sponsorship deal from the local brewery in the Midlands, Mitchell and Butler. MB.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that good?
The MBs, as it were. Yeah.
Talk about being challenged. I went to see some investors who were thinking about getting into the music business, and their offices were in Chobham.
Oh, that was the Beatles. That was the Moody Blues. They had a record shop there.
But so it was in Chobham. So I went to this thing and I was telling them, what we could do and what we, all the normal stuff. And he thought he would try and catch me out, this guy. He says, well, have you got any idea what the connection here with rock music is? I said, oh, do you mean the Moody Blues? And he said, oh, it was.
You get the job. You're hired. Yeah.
Because they used to have a record shop in down there, didn't they? Called Threshold Records.
Yes, right. And didn't they have a hairdressers there as well? I think.
Oh God, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because they always look so Moody Blues.
They always look very coiffed,
wonderfully coiffed.
We haven't really talked about the Moody Blues enough, I don't think, on podcasts. We talked about.
There was
such a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, every good boy deserves fame.
Every boy, good boy. To our children's children.
Yeah, I was going back. I had Golden Dream, and I had question about
question of balance.
That was
of course.
But,
what was the one that began with the bursting forward with the force of 1 billion butterfly wings? They were. I used to.
That's a great line. We've talked about that before. It's one of the softest lines in pop music, isn't it? It's like something like the Incredible String Band. Bursting forward, the sound of 1 billion butterfly wings is so sort of, as if that could be remotely anything but deafening. It's amazing.
I never really liked Nights in White Satin. Funny enough, so I went through that little phase. Yeah. So the first 3 or 4, and then I think I saw Procol Harum with the Royal Philharmonic at the Rainbow. I think they were the first 4 gigs I ever...
It's a brilliant combination. I love it. So you've got Hotlegs, ELP, Captain Beefheart's Magic Band. Yeah. That's brilliant. The Moody's.
And it was really good. Procol Harum with the orchestra. Mick Grabham had just joined them. It was good. After that, I started going to the more... I used to see the Faces a lot. When I saw Bowie, Wings... You know, it became.
Where did you see
Gilbert O'Sullivan?
Gilbert, where did you see David Bowie? Can you remember going to see David
Earl's
Bowie?
Court, at that Earl's Court.
Oh, right. I think I was at that.
Yeah.
Was that the one that had the interminable drum solo? Oh, no, that was the early Earl's Court thing you're talking about. I'm talking about a later one. I think
you remember that being 73, 74? Yeah, 73.
Before he got to the end of the tour and retired.
Because it was half empty, wasn't it, Earl's Court?
Well, it was funny because there was a whole gang of us went, I think 10 or 12 of us, and we were up in the gods, and they had bench seats up there, and there were pillars, and so we were squeezed up, sort of 10 of us on 7 seats, so we could all see, you know, between the pillars. But it was remarkable. There were people who were dressing up. I can remember my mate's girlfriend tapping this young guy on the shoulder in front of us, and he was wearing a white bib and brace, and he was painfully thin. He had the Ziggy haircut and a white bib and brace, and he wasn't wearing a shirt. So it was all
the old lightning flash.
Yeah, skin and bones. And she just tapped him and says, "Why don't you go and get a meal and have something to eat?" He looked so but that was I can't remember too much about that Bowie gig. I'm not sure it was as good. It was a great gig. I'm not sure.
Well, the whole thing, the fascinating thing about that whole tour, at the end of which he announced no more Ziggy Stardust and so forth, was it was underattended. It's the legendary tour. But, you know, like I spoke to those guys when I wrote my book, who turned up at Hammersmith, just got tickets on the day. Yeah. Wasn't sold out at all, you know.
It's true. You just imagine that he was an absolute peak. Yeah.
Very few things were sold out, I think, in those days. I think it was rare. You didn't have credit cards. You know, that kind of booking took a lot of doing. Well, you had to send off your stamped addressed envelope and your postal order.
Yeah. We took a whole row for the Wings gig. It was 1973 when they played Hammersmith. And they'd cancelled it once, but I think there was a whole row. So it was 12, maybe 15 of us went, and my mum organised getting the tickets because it was sending off the money and
that's right. You'd send them off and just wait for them to be posted back.
Yeah, and then the Who, when I went to see the Quadrophenia at the Lyceum, that was well oversubscribed. Keith and I, we bunked off school and we're up there at 6 o'clock in the morning outside the Lyceum a couple of weeks before to get the tickets.
Oh, really?
They were limited. Well, they were limited to 2 per person.
Yeah, yeah. So when you got there at 6 in the morning, was there a queue around the block?
It was, and we couldn't get around the block. So we were directed to somewhere else, but where we got directed to was actually a really good place. So we were almost at the front of the queue. It was
all the way around again and back in.
I love those things. People queuing up to see. I remember queuing to see Dylan at Earl's Court in 78, I think it was. People there with sleeping bags. People there for a day and a half, 2 days, you know. Yeah. Real camaraderie. It's brilliant.
It's funny. I actually met Pete Townsend when they were doing the Quadrophenia show in New York. And I said to him, look, I was at that, the Sunday night, the first, which they'd let too many people into. I mean, can you imagine a Who show where you're being told to sit down?
Well, then people did.
Because the speakers nearly fell off the PA nearly fell off. And so everyone had to sit down. And but I mentioned it to Pete Townsend that I'd seen the show in 73. And he says, and we still haven't got it right.
No. So, well, of course, when they played Leeds University for Live at Leeds, the audience was sitting down.
Yeah.
That's just what they were doing. Isn't it? Audience. I don't think sufficient attention is paid to the kind of changing conventions of how audiences behave. You know what I mean? Because it's all very learned behavior, isn't it? At every stage, I want somebody to do a study about when the whoop first arrived, the audience whoop first arrived in rock and roll shows. It's nowadays completely obligatory.
It's compulsory. Yeah.
It's absolutely compulsory. Nobody's having a good time unless they whoop. What else you got there?
Right. So
what
that was my Bible.
Oh, Charlie Gillett's The Sound of the
that's a great
City.
book. Fabulous book.
I mean, I got this probably before I bought too many records, but it was my Bible. In fact, I reread it not long ago, and it's interesting. The rock and roll was really dependent on the independents.
Yeah,
because the majors didn't want to get involved with pop music because it was or rock music because it was going to take away money from them. So they were not in favour of it. It was the independents, and I always think it's the independents that anything new has come through. It's come from the indies. It's not come from the majors, and I just wonder where this is going to go next. But there you go. There's a question for our times.
Well, yeah, I suppose it probably is still the case, isn't it? Really?
It's always the independents that break something new.
Yeah. But I suppose the thing that the independents used to desperately need was the kind of the muscle of the majors, didn't they, to manufacture and distribute and so forth.
Well, they made money out of it because the distribution was done by the majors anyway.
Yeah,
Creation, Sony being a really good example of that, wasn't it? Because everyone thought it was still Creation, but actually they had the huge muscle power of Sony behind
Well, they
them.
bought it, didn't they? I'm sure they
bought a percentage of it.
I think, and then I think they bought the rest. Yeah, and then this, which is a really beaten up old.
DeLillo. Yeah.
Now I've heard that they are trying to turn that into a film or a TV or something.
Well, what a good idea that would be. It's an amazing
They've
book,
had it before, but they're having another go from someone I know.
Great moments in that, including the Christmas party where John and Yoko are kind of Father Christmas and the Hells Angels are there, and it's amazing.
I think the thing is the chapter titles are so good. £10 a week and all you can steal. The pounding excitement of the golden age of Scottish Gorbals rock continues.
This is where the thing I remember most about the book, I haven't looked at it for a while, is George Harrison's memo to everybody in the Apple building, telling them that the Hells Angels are about to arrive.
That's right.
But don't worry, they'll be cool.
Yeah, they'll be cool. That's right.
And they are anything but these
They're
are
a nightmare.
Anybody's. These are terrorists,
Didn't they send their motorbikes over? Didn't they get them shipped?
Yeah, they took everything.
They did.
Yeah.
And charged Apple for.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
They terrorized all the poor souls who worked in the office. All the people who just had to do their normal work.
The piece about the way they demolished the turkey. They were hungry, and when it arrived,
that's right.
Just ripped it to bits like a pack of jackals. And
there's also great stuff about Magic Alex in that book. And the amount of money that they paid Magic Alex to invent cosmic things.
And
how he achieved absolutely nothing.
18 little speakers that were just not. Yeah.
It's fantastic stuff. What else you got there?
So when we started, I mean, there's 3 ways, isn't there, about how you find out what sort of tribe you're in and who the people are, and music for me was the way I found my oldest and best mates that to this day are still my mates. And it was this. So I bought this songbook.
Oh, the Ram songbook.
Oh, lovely.
And
particularly good record. Surely McCartney's bestseller album.
Yeah.
Masterpiece.
Yeah. I think the backing vocals on it, the way it's put together, the melodies are brilliant.
Dear Boy, fabulous. Heart of the Country.
So I can remember sitting, and that I bought in the shop that this was bought in, just round the corner in Manor Park, was a wool shop, a little old lady who ran a wool shop. But as well as selling wool, she sold guitar strings, harmonicas, and sheet music.
Obviously.
Of course,
brilliant combination.
So I think I bought my first.
And there was a gym at the back and a delicatessen.
So I bought that there, and then I can remember sitting in my mate's front room trying to learn or record what Too Many People on this old reel-to-reel tape machine that wobbled. So when you played it back, it's sort of you know, this kind. But that was a bit of
that
fun.
was in the days. I know from my few adventures or misadventures, buying books of sheet music, hoping that I would be able to play, you know, Bob Dylan songs or whatever. That the chords were never the chords that they used, were they? Because is that
not
the case?
remotely?
Because they're done by piano, aren't they?
I think the passing chords they often miss, isn't it?
It's just really disappointing that they never sounded right. You think I've paid £2.75 for this?
Well, you would pay a lot of money for those things.
Yeah, you would.
A lot of money. Whereas nowadays you go on the internet and there'll be loads
somebody
of
in their kitchen
clips.
in Texas.
Somebody will be showing you how to do it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen Nick Haywood on his, because he's got a Patreon thing going, and he on his one teaching you how to play Fantastic Day.
Oh, really?
He teaches you himself.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Chords. He's recording his new album on Patreon.
All right. No, it's funny. We were talking to Lloyd Cole the other day for a word in your attic, and he's one of the ways he's keeping the wolf from the door. He's writing out lyrics of his songs.
It's such a good idea.
So
if you want a copy of Perfect Skin, he'll sit down for £75. I think he simply gets up in the morning and writes you one out. I can see him. I get this picture of him in a kind of sort of dressing gown, with a croissant to hand, and a quill pen. Wonderful. What a great way to make a living.
So there was and the way I learned, what did I like and what music I was listening to, and the friendships was, it was Keith and playing with him, and then love of the Beach Boys, and then the other one. My mum used to do some amazing things. She'd just turn up and say, "Here, son, have this." The first time I ever had the Beach Boys, again, music for pleasure, which I think was an EMI Capital.
It was an EMI cheap imprint.
There was a Beach Boys one that had tracks on from between 62 and 68. So I had everything from, I don't know,
Surfer Girl to Vegetables.
To Annalena here, or How She Boogalooed It, or Whistling. So she just turned up with that and gave me that, and that was the thing with the Beach Boys. And then one day she just went and bought me this single by a gentleman, you won't be able to see this, called
well, let me see.
Philip Goodhand Tate.
Philip Goodhand Tate. No, Philip Good. Okay.
Every Day. It's a very slow piano version of Buddy Holly's Every Day, and it's a beautiful. You can't get it on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube, but it's a lovely. And I don't know to this day why she just handed me that, and it was brilliant.
Philip Goodhand Tate, he wrote songs for other people, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
What did he write? Can you remember?
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't he involved in writing songs for the Yardbirds or people? No, I mean,
that was Goldman, wasn't it? But was it?
I don't.
Was it the Love Affair? I don't
No, Love Affair. No, those were American kind of soul hits.
Okay.
No, Philip Goodhand Tate, been around forever, and that was that record on DJM.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
And I mean, it's just funny that Mum would buy that. I don't know where she'd heard it and thought I might like it, which I did. But she used to do that, and then from about, I started buying, my mum started buying for me, because it was probably on her paper bill, the NME from April 7, 1970. The breakup with the Beatles was when I started subscribing to the NME, which I then did right through till the early 80s. I think I stopped in the early 80s. And that was another source of how I found out what, is trying to find out where do you hear new music and what you listen to. So the other way was the radio, Pete Drummond and Annie Nightingale. I remember Pete Drummond's show on a Sunday night, where I think I first heard Ram. I bought Ram the first day it came out. Imagine, I used to hear records on there. And then Mates. That was how you found out, wasn't it? That's how you.
Yeah.
So the enemy came through the letterbox. every Thursday.
Yeah.
Who were the writers for you at the NME?
Who were the writers for me? Nick Kent.
Right.
I'm going back to Roy Carr. Early Doors was
Well,
Roy
Carr was all there a long time.
Yeah, and then and I used to like reading the Alley Cat at the back.
All right. Alley Cat, where they used to I think it was Alley Cat, where it was they used to ape the phrases of Variety magazine. So if anybody was expecting a baby, they were described as infanticipating. Remember these things? They did, honestly. And they used to go, if people were dating, they were described as close as this.
That's
so
right. There was one word, wasn't it?
No spaces between those.
That's right, as close as this. I remember that.
Later on, Charles Charles. I actually started by I think by the late 70s, I was getting a bit tired by some of the journalism in the NME, to be honest.
Yes, it got a bit
became
academic.
Exasperating, incredibly academic.
Yeah.
And not really it became entirely about the person writing the article.
I can remember some of the best ones I can remember was, I don't know if you guys remember it. Do you remember they did a series where they talked to musicians and they had the 100 best bass players, the 100 best singers, the 100 best lead guitarists. And I can remember Neil Young was voted the best vocalist. Beating John Lennon, but Neil Young came out number one. Amazing.
I don't remember that at all.
No, I've not sort of gone back and tried to find out and research it, but I can't remember. It was probably early 70s.
I love the idea they had 100. So if you were Glenn Cornick, you'd suddenly say, "What, 97? I'm the 97th best bass player." I have a pint of beer to celebrate.
My mother will be so proud.
Yeah.
I'm in the list. I'm on the list. That's what I say. So this is an odd thing that I picked up.
Oh God.
Oh, okay. Is that a bootleg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've given a copy to MPL just in case they didn't have one, because it is the actual Nottingham University show. When they turned up, when the roadies turned up and just said,
Oh, with the van and said, "Do you want us to play?"
Yeah.
Oh, that was the first one, really, wasn't it?
This was the very first gig, right?
It was.
So the thing that's amazing, it was recorded obviously on a little cassette player, very badly. But the thing I like about it, and having played in a band, is they only had so many songs that they'd rehearsed and they ran out. So they started again. So at the end of the set, they're doing songs they'd done at the beginning. It was, so they did things like The Mess a couple of times and Lucille and things like that. But very under-rehearsed. It's interesting from that point of view.
That was the fantasy that he wanted to do with the Beatles at the end, wasn't it? Around the time of the last album, really. They were going to get in a van, weren't they? Just drive off and just play little gigs.
So they like the look of Ashby. They're on the M1. They like the sound of Ashby de la Zouche. So they went off on the turn off, and the first university they found obviously was Nottingham, and that was it. 50p for
incredible story.
50p for a ticket.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary to think of Paul McCartney running out of tunes of all people.
Yeah,
because I was just looking at Mark Lewison's book this morning, where he's writing about the Beatles in Hamburg 1960, and how their repertoire just grew like crazy, just to fill up these huge, really long sets that they had to do. And he actually makes the claim, and I think it's probably a fair claim, in 1960-61, they were the most experienced rock band on earth.
Yeah.
They were playing things like Your Feet's Too Big, weren't they?
Just
Red Sails in the Sunset. That's right. Incredible. Huge repertoire.
I saw your thing with Ron Sexsmith the other
Right,
day.
yeah.
And I mean, he is a human dude, but
He is, yeah.
I've seen him. I mean, I've seen him since he first started coming to the UK in '96. We used to go to all his shows, and I think we saw him in a pub in Cricklewood or somewhere. I can't remember, Willesden. And he did Knowing You, Knowing Me, and Listen to What the Man Said. You know, just at the end, just throw him in. He'd do Springsteen songs at the drop of a hat. He was amazing.
Well, as you said, he started out at age 17 in a bar, didn't he? In Canada, just playing anything anybody wanted to hear. So you just learned them all.
But Mark, something muscle memory will help you with the chords and the thing. It's remembering the lyrics to all these songs.
Well, you know, as Springsteen does it.
Well, he has someone Google.
He has somebody who's getting the. Well, he just kills a bit of time talking about he's going to play Whitest Shade of Pale, while somebody A gets the lyrics and B puts them on the auto cue.
On a prompter. That's right.
I mean, Ron Sexsmith. I mean, I was at the show where he Meltdown that Ray Davies did when Ray Davies was the creator, and he actually came on and played with Ron Sexsmith. He had Ron Sexsmith on, and apparently this is the days when people faxed things, and Ray announced that Ron had sent him a fax with 75 Kink songs that he could just play if he wanted to do one of them. And
Good God.
Ray didn't know. He said, I don't know most of these songs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember writing that many.
And then they picked Misfits, which probably wasn't, sort of the most obvious Ray Davies song to do.
But he knew the lyrics. He knew the lyrics to it.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
That's the great truth, isn't it? The younger fans know the songs better than the artists because they've been the younger fans.
Well, and they've heard them many more times.
They've
memorized them.
It's like McCartney's band. They were fans first before they became McCartney's band. So that's it's the ideal situation.
This was a band I loved in the 70s, and I always thought they were. And again, it was the end.
Kokomo, yes.
Now, one of them died, didn't
Diane Birch.
Diane Birch, just the other week.
Who worked at NEMS. Did you know she worked at NEMS in the record department?
Yeah, maybe I did. Go on, right.
From the band.
Richard Williams wrote a lovely thing about her on his blog. They were a big deal at the time, although they didn't sell that many records, did they?
No.
They were
big fans to the music press.
They were really expected to, not so much the music press, just generally.
But weren't they done in by the arrival of punk? Because it was sort of 75, 76, wasn't it?
A little bit of that. They were on the Naughty Rhythms tour with Dr. Feelgood and Chili Willy and the Red Hot Peppers.
And did you know
they were the third group
on Return? Is it Return to Durango? Desire? They're the backing band. They're Dylan's backing band on the Desire album on one or two tracks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I didn't know till I was doing a bit of research.
I'm going to look that up. Desire.
Yeah, I think it was Return to Durango, Return from Durango.
Like
on
that.
Desire. Yeah, and apparently they did a disco version of Like a Hurricane.
Didn't they play Blackbush? No, they didn't.
Okay.
I mean,
no, they didn't, because I was there. I would remember. No,
Right,
they didn't.
okay.
Merger. It was Merger. No, not Kokomo. I don't think so.
Graham Parker played. Joan Armour Trading.
Joan Armour Trading. Eric Clapton.
Right.
They did.
Linda Lewis.
Break America. Everyone thought they were going to break America.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
The NME I remember that's why I bought it. It was an NME review.
Right.
And then they slated the next album. Typical.
Yeah.
Me, you know?
They slated the next one because the first one hadn't done as
And
well as
so,
they'd hoped.
yeah.
I
mean,
They took it out on the second one.
They always take it out on the one after. That's how reviews work.
I've always had a soft spot for bands where you've got more than one singer.
Right.
And,
yes.
We always say that we shared the singing around in our band purely because none of us were singers. So it saved the pain for the audience if you spread it around a bit. Right? So, but I've always loved bands that could, have more than one singer because I think it gives
Vinegar
you
Joe.
variety. It gives you. So the band.
The band's the best example.
Yeah. I mean, I saw them in the 90s when they and Rick Danko was not very well by that time, suffering from jet lag, and he walked on stage with his flies undone. This was at the Forum, but he still sang like an angel during the show. But they got to him. I took the wife, and she never forgave me. She blames her bad foot on the fact I had to ride down the front, standing for ages. But I could see the set list, and the first encore was "Life Is a Carnival," and no, it wasn't "Life Is a Carnival." It was "Stage Fright," and they came on. Rick looked at the piano player. I can't remember his name now. Not Garth. The piano, and said, "So what's it?" And he said, "It's Stage Fright." And he said, "I'm not doing that," and walked off. but as a band, when with Richard Manuel, Levon, and Rick, so bands with and Kokomo had that. They did.
Yeah. Well, the piano player was a singer, wasn't he? He was a really good singer.
Well,
I'd say it was really good. I saw, and this must be about getting on for 10 years ago now. I went to see Neil Finn at the Festival Hall or somewhere like that. And he'd recruited just a young band of musicians I've never heard of before, and I haven't heard of since. But he'd obviously I'm just going to hire a bunch of young musicians. But he obviously hired them on the basis that A, they could play, and B, they could sing, and you weren't expecting it at all. So when the backing vocals came in, so often you're used to, that's the point in the concert at which you're slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
Whereas when you suddenly get people who really can sing, it lifts
it. Yeah.
Absolutely everything,
I can remember seeing, I think it was with his brother when after they did that really good album they had out.
Very good record. Yeah.
They played the Albert Hall, and they turned off the speakers and came to the front of the stage and sang. And the only other person I've seen do that is Tony Bennett. I've seen Tony Bennett do that, but they did.
And it works in the Albert Hall.
Yeah,
the Albert Hall was an acoustic theater. Obviously, it was built before the age of, I saw Rufus Wainwright do it at the Albert Hall.
Yeah.
And it does work. You can hear people all over.
They were really. So Kokomo, I always thought, because none of my crew sort of had this one. So I thought there was two artists. I thought they're mine because no one else has picked up on them. There was Kokomo, and I just thought they were a great band. And then the first person I ever found out who really liked Kokomo, I was sitting in the Union Chapel waiting for Mavis Staples to come on. And behind me was sitting Kevin Rowland.
Oh, right. And this is about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Couple of years back now.
I was at that show. Go on.
And Nick Lowe was there. But Kevin was sitting behind me, and we got into a conversation for another reason. And somehow it got round to Kokomo, and he was a huge Kokomo fan.
So what was your conversation with Kevin Rowland? Was it you're trying to acquire the copyright and come on Eileen?
No, we weren't. I was with Stevie Lewis, who you know, and Steve's best mate persuaded the folk at Arista they should release Come On Eileen as a single because they didn't want to release it. They didn't think it was a single.
In America, this is.
Here.
Oh, right. Well, it wasn't Arista.
What was it? Mercury. I'm sorry.
I
got the label wrong, but
right.
That's who he worked for. He was down after then. He persuaded them, no, that's the single.
Right.
And they were, so Steve was talking about it, and then I sort of was introduced, and we got into a conversation about Kokomo.
Is Come On Eileen at the beginning of that record, or is it the end of the LP?
First song, isn't it?
Oh, is it the first song? Okay, fine. Wasn't sure.
I'm not sure.
No, I was just thinking about. I just thinking about singles that were never fancied. We were talking about Human League's "Don't You Want Me."
Yeah.
They didn't want to put out as a single.
They didn't think it was a single.
And
astonishing.
That's the last track on the album.
I've heard a fantastic recording of Human League in Margate, where the band wanted to be recorded because they were thinking of doing a live album, and they were played this gig in London. I think the Lebanon was the song that I heard, and the subject of a live album never came up again. because of the backing singers.
Oh,
It's a shame.
the two girls, they were great, those girls. They made that band.
Fantastic. Yeah, exactly.
They made that band. Because everyone looked at them and thought, I could be in a band. I could dance as well as that. Yeah.
Yes. So that was an interesting one. Going forward a little bit, and I can't find the first one, but I found the second one. Do you remember this, guys?
No, go on.
Go on.
That's the tour program.
I mean, that was something. So when McCartney came out in '89 with which album was it?
Oh, that might have been done by our lot.
Wait, that was the second one.
It was.
That's the second one. Put Paul de Neuer.
Yeah.
And the first one was the tour before, when the album he did with Elvis Costello, and they really worked hard on. But you got into your seat, and there was this for nothing. You know, it was a friendly, and that was the second one for them.
No, that was great fun to do.
Was that the time, Dave, that you went and got yourself photographed wearing his Sgt. Pepper outfit?
That was the first book, because I said I had a meeting with him on the first book, and I said it'd be great if we could just photograph some memorabilia, just have some spreads of old stuff. I said, do you keep much? He said, yeah. He said, the office will arrange for you to go. And the office duly arranged for me to go to a sort of bonded warehouse down in Hackney, which was mainly used by Charles Saatchi to store the Royal College of Art's latest collection. And the rest of it was McCartney's collection of the keys to the city of every city in the United States, 1 million gold discs, and postcards from John Lennon, and the Sgt. Pepper jacket.
That wasn't the place.
I'm afraid to say I put on, and that might be
really good for you.
Of course you did.
The place that burned down, was it?
I think he probably will have outgrown that by the time anything like that happened. Yeah, there was a place that there was some fire involved in some Charles Saatchi place, I think.
Yeah, where all the master tapes got burned.
No, that was Universal.
That's right.
That's a different thing. Nowadays, everybody keeps all their stuff, but in those days, it was relatively rare.
So then, because of this huge Beach Boy fascination that we all had, so the Shedheads, we decided we'd go and see when Brian Wilson played the festival hall.
Oh, we were there.
We were there
for the first one, for the Pet Sounds one. Yeah. So I went.
Wonder Mints were the backing group, weren't they?
Oh, incredible!
Phenomenal.
So we saw that. So I've got the. So I went to that. Then I went to the Smile one. And then I went and saw the third one, which was he was commissioned to write a piece for the Royal Festival Hall called Lucky Old Son. And I went and by the time I got to the third one, I'm a huge Brian Wilson fan. But the third one, he was sitting, they put him like a campfire with the band round him and him on a stool in the middle, looking completely lost, like a rabbit in the headlights. And I thought, I'm never going to go and see him again. I mean, the first one, because I just thought it wasn't fair. The guy, he says he likes to, and I just find it.
Well, I agree with you. I find it awkward. He was reading his kind of ad libs off a kind of auto cue thing.
I mean, but then the thing I said about the first show, I never thought in my lifetime I'd see Brian Wilson singing Surf's Up, which he did in the first half of that show. I never thought I'd hear him doing Forever, the Dennis Wilson song, and so the first one I got, Smile, was interesting to go and see, but by the time the third one, and they've carried it on, and so
he must be a meal ticket for a lot of people.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who don't eat if Brian Wilson doesn't work. I would have thought, and also you've also got the issue that these guys, they are addicted to it. They don't know what to do.
I'm not convinced he is in that camp. I understand that. I mean, McCartney's definitely in that camp. He wouldn't retire, and I get that. but I'm not sure Brian is in it. I think it's really sad. I mean, I saw, because we're sort of got to know the Zombies quite well, and the Zombies management, and they did a tour. They toured last year. Oracles and Odyssey was the first half with the Zombies, and then Al Jardine and Brian Wilson were doing Friends, which only takes 30 minutes, so that's okay.
What a great combination.
Yeah. Well, they had Colin Blunstone still
sings fabulously. I saw him not long ago.
In the same key.
Yeah,
time of the season. Yeah.
And he said to me once, he said, the day I can't do it in the original key is the day I retire.
Well, no, so sorry, because Alan, you and I went to see him, and
yeah, it was just a sad place to go, really. But
they did a little recital, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that he could hit those notes as and there was no technical jiggery pokery.
No, it was just him.
It really was him. It's extraordinary.
And that Brian Wilson tour, the idea was he came on at the end and sang God Only Knows. And the idea was Brian would play and Colin would sing. So the message obviously hadn't got to Brian, because my partner was there and he saw the show, and Brian started singing along.
This is it.
And he has his speaker, he has his speakers around him so loud, Colin couldn't hear himself. So it was an absolute debacle. But it's such a sad thing. It would have been so good. Colin.
It's a golden rule, though, isn't it? Of all these transactions, that whenever you're told, yes, he knows, he never knows.
I know. No.
Because nobody ever tells the star.
They don't dare tell the star.
Listen to me. This is what's involved. We're going to do this. It's slightly unusual. Is that okay? Yeah. For fear that they're going to be told, no, it's not okay. So they don't tell them, as they leave everybody else to work it out in the middle of the chaos. That's a classic case.
It's funny, if you guys sort of had a sort of an office party and you could have a band come along and play, who would you have?
Oh God!
Well, gosh, that's a difficult one. We did have a few office parties that were when we were at Word. We had put on a few concerts, and we had Neil Finn once, didn't we? Because he's just so reliable and fantastic. Who would we have? God.
But who'd be good? I'm trying to think who'd be really good to get a party going. You know, if you wanted to have a real good knees up.
I'd probably have a covers group or something like that.
Well,
I wouldn't have anybody who's going to play their own song.
You'd probably have the bootleg Beatles.
You're right.
Right.
Something like that.
Because then you're guaranteed a good. I remember somebody invented the idea of a tribute band festival. I remember thinking, what a really good idea that is. So you get 6 songs by ABBA, 6 by the Stones, 6 by the Beatles, 6 by Fleetwood, or whatever it was, and they're all going to be really.
You could run it for
quality.
a month. You could run it for a month. So Thursday night, headliners are ABBA. Friday night, the Rolling Stones, the Jackson 5.
You know what you're going to get. You know what quality it's going to be. No, go on, answer the question. Now, that's a good question. Well, who would you get?
Having seen them do it, and I agree with you, David, you want them to do covers. You don't want them to do their own stuff. The Zombies are such a good.
Really?
They did Roadrunner. They just walked on and did Roadrunner at Star. And I just think, do you know what? If you wanted to get a real party really going, that would be brilliant. And I think I'd have the Zombies. I really do.
Well, it's a shame you're not having a party on Saturday.
I know.
You've probably got the heft to be able to get the Zombies to do it for a reduced rate. Now, it's traditional on these chats that we finish by your nomination of the greatest record ever made.
Okay.
And you told us earlier that you were just going to decide on the fly.
Yeah. So it was between 3. So the band by the band.
That's what people are trying to do, Mark. Have you noticed this? They're starting to go, here's my top 3. It'll be top 5.
Give me that.
I know, and I don't blame them either, actually. You say, it's either one of these 3, and it's probably this one. But you want to mention all of them. Mention all of them. Go on.
There is that.
Of course.
Mugbury Moon Delight.
And I'm very close to... or it's Revolver. But I think it's this one.
I think it's an amazing record. Dear boy, you know, it's only 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's about Linda's former husband, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's
it's not about John Lennon. It's not everyone.
No, the
John
melody on that
John
is
Lennon,
so extraordinary.
I mean,
the whole record is
he
phenomenal. Montgomery Moon Delight is brilliant.
He worked so very hard on that. But that would be it. It would be Ram.
All right. Well,
choice.
that's an excellent choice. So Saturday, come your birthday, you'll all be sitting at home watching Match of the Day. Who are West Ham playing this weekend?
I don't know. I haven't looked yet.
Okay. All right.
And your team's doing okay, aren't they?
Yeah, they played Chelsea at the weekend.
That's Tottenham, viewers, if anyone doesn't know.
Sorry.
Dave's not at top of the heap.
Yeah.
Albeit possibly briefly. Very exciting.
Well, I don't know. And, well, have a nice time, Alan. That's all we can say.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Very good fun talking to you. Have a very happy birthday.
And many of them, as we say. And we shall see you when this bloody war is over.
The plague, as I heard someone say.
In actual physical space. The plague, as Laura Barton referred to it. Yeah. You know, we shall gather around a drink, possibly the Islington. Who knows if we're back there?